40 Among the dead are Illinois Congressman George Collins of the 7th District and Michelle Clark, a news reporter for CBS in Chicago for several months before she was transferred to Washington. The plane clipped the roofs of 2 houses on 71st Street and then slammed through 6 more homes in the 3700 block of 70th Street before it came tragically to rest. A total of 61 persons were aboard the plane, 53 passengers, 6 crewmen, and 2 infants not listed on the passenger manifest. All but 17 perished in the crash. Here is a list of the survivors. Ari Sherwood, no address. Laura West, Chicago. Linda West, Chicago. Jenny Beth Sherwood, Chicago. Harold Metcalf, Tinley Park. Harvey Green, Park Forest. Marvin Anderson, South Holland, Illinois. John Rowan, Naperville. Walter Patterson, no address. Howard Christensen, no address. I repeat, these are survivors of the crash. Nancy Parker, Whiting, Indiana. Dolores Pendry, Chicago. Aloysius Weiser, no address. Wilbur Erickson of Omaha, Nebraska. Also surviving, the 3 stewardesses, Marguerite McCuseland, Dorothy Griffin, and Kathy Durrett, all based in Washington. Marvin Anderson, one of the survivors, talked about the tragedy just a few hours later.
Well, I was sitting about midsection in the plane, and on the left-hand side, I would say that the flight must have been about a third or a half full. And as we came in, I'm always concerned about the landings, and particularly in the area of Midway, because I'll never fly in here again, of course. But needless to say, looking down, one could not see the ground when the pilot had already given more power to the engine and tried to pull out of his landing pattern, presumably way too low. And as he pulled out, the tail section was pancaking down. He went into a stall, and we just flopped into the houses.
Reporters asked Anderson if there was any panic aboard the plane.
Well, there was a lot of screaming, and actually I moved up from my seat 2 seats, and the fella sitting in that seat, adjacent to the emergency exit, was conscious, and we opened that hatch to crawl out, but we're already inside somebody's house. I guess we're in 2 houses or so. And anyway, coming out of that window, it just burst into flames there, so we actually slammed that shut and looked around, and when I saw a light at the other end, I just said, come on, let's get out this way, and made my way out.
Reporter Marty O'Connor talked with a woman whose home was struck by the falling aircraft.
Where did you live?
At 3722 West End Place, where the plane tail is. That's where my house was.
How did you find out about what happened?
One of the fellows down at work told me a plane hit over this way.
You left work?
Well, I quit at 3:30, and a foreman brought me over here, brought me home.
Is your house destroyed?
Yes, it is. All that's left is a garage.
Total loss?
Yes.
What kind of a family do you live with?
My mother and sister and a German Shepherd dog.
Have you been able to get in contact with
No, I haven't heard. I don't know what happened to them. I don't know if I got a mother and sister and a dog.
Another eyewitness to the plane crash was 16-year-old Chris Nevins.
First, I was going into my friend's garage, and we heard this jet, and all of a sudden we heard like a sonic boom. And so we came running out, and I looked, and I saw the plane like hit the garage and go through it. And then I saw it go up in flames, and I ran over there, and I could see the pilot or the co-pilot in the cockpit hanging out. His arm was, and he was still in the cockpit, and I could hear people screaming, and people were trying to get at him.
Raymond Burns, an off-duty policeman who lives near the scene of the crash, was there just minutes after the tragedy.
I wasn't. I was at home sleeping. I just got off duty from working midnights, and I heard a loud crash. And I got up, looked out ran outside and I saw a lot of smoke. So I put on my jacket and ran over here to see if I could give any help.
What did you see when you got here?
A lot of flames, a lot of smoke. Heard a woman screaming. Looked like it came from the front of the plane. A lot of people started coming on the scene, so I ran by the houses that was torn apart across the street to see if we could get some of the people out of the house.
Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board were dispatched from Washington to probe the wreckage. Before they arrived, reporter Marty O'Connor asked board spokesman Brad Dunbar if any flight recorders were recovered.
I have no information on the recovery of those as yet. The first order the first priority always is the survivors and recovery of the bodies.
Will they be questioned tonight, sir?
I do not know whether there will be any opportunity to do that tonight, but the investigating team will start its work tonight when they arrive.
Any indication why the plane was that low, sir?
No, we have no idea whether it was low or what happened.
What does the tower tell you?
I have not talked with the tower. Our team will be talking with the tower and with everyone else connected in any way with the flight.
Is there any indication now what possibly could have gone wrong with that aircraft?
I have no idea, and it's far, far too early to speculate.
Do you have any ideas from looking at the wreckage as you've just done?
No, and the safety board doesn't speculate. It finds fact and determines cause.
Mr. Dunbar, is it of any significance that roughly the last portion of the craft is intact?
No, it's not unusual for the tail section to be left relatively intact.
One of the engines was found out in the streets, or does that tell you anything?
No.
Does the pattern of explosion or fire tell you anything now?
The entire wreckage distribution and the pattern of the wreckage, where all of the pieces of the aircraft are found, may very well tell our investigators a great deal. But it will take them a week to 10 days at the scene, and then weeks to come thereafter before any of these facts begin to tell them anything.
Even as the investigation into the cause of the crash was just beginning, there was a lot of speculation about the reasons behind the tragedy. A lot of that speculation centers on the United pilots' last conversation with the Midway Control Tower. Don Harris reports.
There was no hint of trouble with Flight 553. 553 was on a course heading for runway 31 left. He was following a private plane but did not yet have clearance to land. A controller noticed the separation between the two planes was becoming marginal, and the controller told 553, "Make a go-around." The United pilot acknowledged and started his maneuver to increase separation. There was no more conversation between control tower and pilot, no indication just what went wrong with Flight 553. All of a sudden, Flight 553 just disappeared from the controller's radar screen. This is Don Harris for WGN News.
Among those at the scene after the crash was Mayor Daley. Our Marty O'Connor talked with him about Midway Airport.
Mr. Mayor, will this crash do anything to your plans for the return of Midway?
Well, first you have to find out what the reason for it was. No one knows up to date. The FAA will come in and conduct a thorough investigation. And
you'll leave the investigation up to the federal authorities?
Well, the men are doing everything they can, or you can see the policemen and firemen doing a hell of a job. That's like to congratulate them.
Mr. Mayor, did you know that Congressman Collins was aboard?
Very unfortunate, yes.
And Michelle Clark?
Yeah, very unfortunate.
The little news girl?
Yeah. I used to be in the...
Mr. Mayor, what might the city be able to do for these people?
Well, we'll do everything we possibly can.
Specifically, sir, can you tell us what that might be?
Well, I mean, I can't tell you specifically at this time because it'll have to all be analyzed. And we'll do everything we possibly can.